proved that the CEO was her father. The little girl immediately returned to the warehouse to search for the family heirloom jade pendant. Unexpectedly, she encountered her uncle and a group of kidnappers there. She approached them and asked if they had seen her pendant. When they learned that the pendant was very important to her, her uncle tricked her into kneeling and begging. The innocent little girl knelt, only to realize she had been deceived. They then demanded that she speak ill of the CEO, and in return, they would give her the pendant back. The little girl firmly refused. The uncle, who was an enemy of the CEO, was furious, which made her uncle, who was against the CEO, furious. He immediately ordered the kidnappers to capture her. However, the kidnappers, having previously witnessed her magical abilities, were too scared to approach her. But under pressure from their boss, they had no choice but to follow orders. At this moment, the little girl took out a golden gourd and sucked all the kidnappers in front of her into it. This shocked her uncle and the secretary. When the little girl took out a command flag to immobilize them, she realized her magical powers were completely drained. Without any magic left, the little girl was easily captured. Furthermore, her parents' photos were snatched away by her uncle. Her uncle tricked her into kneeling and begging again, but this time, after she kowtowed to him, he not only refused to return the photos but also tore them into pieces. As she looked at the shredded photos of her parents, the little girl became furious. Her asthma suddenly flared up. As she took out her medicine, the secretary snatched it away and stomped on the bottle to humiliate her. At that moment, the CEO arrived with bodyguards. He immediately ordered a doctor to treat his daughter. Then he scolded his brother and the secretary for bullying his daughter. They were stunned to see that the CEO, who had been paralyzed for 10 years, was now standing. In fact, not long ago, the little girl discovered that the CEO had a number of deadly poison needle with evil energy embedded in his body. She gave him a medicinal pill, then used magic to pull the poison needle out of his body, which completely healed his disability. At the time, when he heard the little girl call him dad, he didn't believe it. But now, as he picked up the photo that had fallen on the ground, he suddenly remembered that his ex-girlfriend had been pregnant 10 years ago. However, a car accident caused him to lose all memory of it. As the memories of his ex-girlfriend came flooding back, he became emotionally overwhelmed. He spat out blood and collapsed to the ground, a result of the chronic poison his brother had been secretly administering for years. Although the little girl had healed the CEO's illness, she discovered that he still carried an ominous evil energy. Seeing the chairman's obvious anxiety, the little girl told her grandfather that to change her father's fate, he needed to find a protective amulet for him, preferably one made of jade, and the more precious, the better. The chairman agreed to do everything he could to find it. The little girl, knowing her father's health was fragile, calculated his fate. The divination showed that her father had an extremely bad omen. At that moment, the CEO walked out of the room. The little girl didn't tell him about his fate, but instead wished they could always be together. The next day, the CEO took the little girl to an auction. Since there were no seats in the hall, she used a talisman to create a sofa for her father to sit on. At that moment, a rich young man and a beautiful woman arrived, demanding that they give up their seats. Suddenly, the little girl's pendant started to glow. She realized that the woman in front of her resembled the mother in the photo, and guessed that this woman was her mother. So, she pretended to offer the woman her seat, and then purposely pushed the woman into her father.